You're about to see the creation of an end-to-end application foundation. We'll start with a backend, including a database, an API, and a back-office web UI. The API will then be published on the CA API gateway where mobile app services are deployed. And finally, you'll see how an app is created in Xcode that interacts with mobile app services and consumes this API securely to complete the end-to-end loop. Step 1 involves creating the actual API backend in CA Live API Creator. Let's start a new project in Live API Creator. We want to start from scratch, so we select an empty database. We give it a name, a description, and save. Then we switch to author mode and start defining our application's data model. In this mode, we create tables and fields. For example, let's define the concept of suppliers and add a few fields to it. Back in our schema view, we can see the data model we started. We can also import a data model from a simple JSON file. Let's do that for the rest of the data model. You see we end up with two other data formats, one for product details and then one for product location. Now let's start adding some application logic. We'll create a couple of reactive rules around the concept of product quantities. In our case, we want total units in stock to automatically be summed up from all children product location bins. The second rule is going to be a validation rule using JavaScript. This rule prevents the total units in stock to go beyond a maximum value. Any action affecting the total units in stock will trigger this validation rule to make sure we're not stocking too much of a particular product. If we switch to REST-Lab, we can see that an API has automatically been created for this data model. We can use this API to easily populate sample data in the application backend. I have sample data in JSON here that I'll copy and paste into REST-Lab. I'm doing this once for product details and again for product locations. In addition to this automatic API, we also get a single-page application back-office UI called Data Explorer. From Data Explorer, we can now see the data that was loaded via the API earlier. I can edit the data directly from here. For example, I can change the units in stock for a specific bin location, and you notice that the reactive rule automatically updates the total units in stock. If I change the value to go beyond our max units in stock, you'll see our second rule kick in automatically and an error popping up. Although Live API Creator automatically generated an API for our app, let's create our own REST resource tailored to our client application. This is known as a custom resource or microservice. Let's call this new resource Available Product. We select which field we want to include in here, and we can also tailor how some of these attributes are named. Resources have filters. In this case, I only want to return products where total units in stock are greater than 0 or ones that are allowed to be back ordered. Now I also want to include data about the product location bins nested in product details. I do that by adding a level to my resource. The correct relationship is automatically suggested. I only have to adjust the name to appear in my resource, another filter so that empty bins are not returned, and under attributes, which fields should be included. Clicking Test brings me back to REST-Lab where I can test my new resource. You can see all fields are named as desired and an added checksum field which enables an important feature called optimistic locking. This makes it scale. Also notice pagination is automatically handled. If we go to API docs, you will notice that a standard Swagger doc was created and updated as we created our backend. In the second step, we publish the newly created API to the gateway responsible for securing the API traffic and authenticating users. This gateway implements the OAuth protocol, allowing users to authenticate to an internal identity provider or social login provider like Facebook. The policy templates are ready on the gateway. All I need to do here is tell the gateway to add this API at the wanted address. We do this using a simple script and we're done. We are now ready to start developing our mobile application. In this step, you will see the mobile app developer registering the application in mobile app services and build the app in Xcode. First, the developer logs into the MAS developer console. Then the developer registers the app, naming the application, the organization, and clicks the Create button. Since we're developing an iOS app, we'll choose this platform. MAS provides a convenient iOS app template to be added to Xcode. Let's download that. We can also download the iOS framework, which abstracts out all the security aspects of this application. We can now view our newly registered application in a developer console. You can see that a client ID has been created for this app, and you can download the iOS config file containing this key and other important information needed for the app to call our secure API. We're now ready to start coding our app. Let's start by choosing the app template downloaded earlier, name our application. Under capabilities, let's turn on keychain sharing to allow mobile SSO between this app and any other app that we're creating. CA's mobile SSO technology optimizes user experience in a secure way. Next, we import the MAS SDK and config file downloaded earlier. We will illustrate calling our secure API from the main view controller. We just need to declare a couple packages. We configure the app for a simple OAuth password grant type, but there are many different flows supported, each allowing for a slightly different UX. We're pretty much done here. Plugging a secure API call from Xcode at this point is very simple. The developer simply uses the getFrom method, enters the API location, provide variables to catch response and potential errors. Normally, you would display parts of the response in the GUI as appropriate, but in this case, we'll simply print the API output in the debug console to demonstrate our end-to-end flow. That's it. Let's compile the application. We'll run the app in the iOS emulator on the right and show the output console centered at the bottom of the screen. Because location services are turned on, our app automatically asks the user for permission. Since we're running in an emulator, let's emulate our location. Now, since we added our secure API call right into the main view, we're automatically prompted for authentication. Notice how the developer did not have to write any code for this to happen. Users can choose which IDP to authenticate against. We'll use our internal IDP configured on the gateway side. The result of the API call coming from our backend are now showing in the output console. Let's review what we just accomplished in a few minutes here. We created our application backend on Live API Creator. We published it on our gateway, associating security policies to it. Then we created an app that calls the secure API, including user authentication. Of course, there is still work needed to complete the actual mobile application UI, and our backend might need to evolve as we add functionality, but we achieve our end-to-end secure flow in a matter of minutes. Thanks for watching this video.